turn my mic on, then I'll do that. I'd like to call to order the strategic planning workshop for the 24-28 strategic plan. We'll stand for a moment of silence, please, and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Then we'll have a roll call, and then we'll move into discussion matters. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a roll call, please.
Mayor Dodd.
Here.
Vice Mayor Dixon.
Here.
Councilmember McPartlin.
Here.
Councilmember Nunn.
Here.
And Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to turn this over to our consultants, Dr. Savick and Dr. Levy, and let them lead the meeting. So if you'd like to.
Yep, there we go. Perfect. So, brief agenda on what we're doing today. This is an opportunity for the elected policymakers of the City of Sebastian to discuss key concepts and provide specific direction on mission, vision, values, and goals. The next step in the process will be community meetings when we get public input and feedback and ideas on the mission, vision, values, and goals. At that point, then, the staff will be developing, specific statements for mission, vision, values, and goals. Then it comes back to you for adoption. I'll just say a couple things about, before we jump into what strategic planning is, we're really here to facilitate the discussion, and this is very much your time, and we want to hear all ideas on mission, vision, values, and goals. So why do successful organizations do strategic planning? Why is it a best practice? Long-term success is never an unplanned event. It's never an accident or a coincidence. And strategic planning enables us to identify opportunities that we can optimize and threats which we can mitigate or avoid. It helps us align our operations and organization with a specific set of objectives so that positive, measurable outcomes are achieved. And it allows you to design your own future and set the direction for the future of the city and produce very positive results for citizens. So if you had to summarize what is strategic planning, given the mission, right, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, stakeholders, history, capacity, and our resources, what should our mission, vision, values, goals, and objectives be? And then what specific strategies or action plans would we implement to achieve those objectives and translate them into positive, measurable outcomes? It's a very research-driven process. Research helps us identify what we should be discussing for mission, flowing from mission to our goals, next our objectives and strategies, tactics, and we implement and we evaluate. So specifically, it enables us to establish a mission for the organization that everyone knows, understands, believes in, and is acting on as intended. Next, broad long-term purposes, goals for the organization. Then you notice we're getting more and more specific and defined with greater clarity to objectives. And objectives are SMART: specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound, right? If you can't measure it, it's not an objective. It doesn't have like a number in it or a percentage in it, it's not an objective. How will the objectives be achieved? Through detailed action plans. Within the strategic plan, there will be a one-page summary plan, explains strategy, tactics, resources, timeline, personnel, metrics. In other words, anybody could read it and go, I see how you're going, I see the game plan to get that objective done, right? So each of these key concepts that we're going to be discussing today, the mission. What is the mission of an organization? It's the rationale of the organization, the raison d'etre. Why do we exist, right? The vision is where would we want to go Who can we be? What can we achieve, right? It's future-oriented, it's aspirational. Values are standards that define how people think, talk, and behave in any organization. And goals are broad, long-term purposes, right? Like promote economic development, right? Ensure public safety. Once again, once you get down to the next level, the objective level, they're specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. So a quick summary of and visual representation of the process in which you're participating. It's multi-stage. It is sequenced in a specific order for very, very important reasons. We capitalize on a number of different methods of data collection and analysis, both quantitative, numerical and qualitative data. It provides the widest possible opportunities for everyone to participate during the process. We conducted organizational and community research in order to make sure we had a solid understanding of both the city government and the city that you serve. We conducted interviews with all of you, the mayor and the council, the elected policymakers, as well as the executive team. There was then an electronic survey that was administered and participated in by all employees. Once again, what are we keying in on during the interviews and in the electronic surveys? Mission, vision, values, goals, objectives. What's great is when you collect all these different data sets, it's like brick wall of evidence. You have an opportunity to cross-validate, triangulate. In other words, you go, wow, several different sources of evidence are pointing me in the same direction. I can be confident in that conclusion. The workshop today, you could be reinforcing ideas that you've already articulated during the interviews and during the electronic survey, or you could be introducing brand new ideas, right? This is your process. And then the next step in the process is going to be community participation. We'll have 2 events that scheduled where residents of the city of Sebastian can come and provide their ideas, their input, what they'd like to see for the mission, vision, values, and goals. There are also going to be several opportunities for citizens to share their perspectives during these type of events like today, during workshops and meetings, because this is not going to all get done in one meeting, but a multi-step process. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Levy, and he's going to continue with the program.
Mayor, council members, good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to present the findings of this 2-step process. So just to describe the process, we interviewed all 5 of you one-on-one to get your thoughts on the mission, vision, values, and goals. The SWOT analysis, I'm going to go through that data. We also interviewed your senior team, your management team. That's step 1, and I'm going to go through those findings. And then step 2, we did an electronic survey of 100 of your employees, including everybody in the first group, to try and see if there was consensus between the findings from the interviews and the electronic survey. And so what I'm about to show you are the high-level findings on what the elected officials and the senior leadership team found in terms of what was important for the mission statement. And you can see ranked here in terms of the frequency. And I'm going to go through these very quickly. I know you've seen these. You've had this presentation. We're going to have there is going to be a point on tonight's agenda relatively soon. When I get through this, we'll have a discussion of this information and allow you to provide additional input. We did ask the question whether the existing mission statement was serving its purpose. Did you want to keep it? And you can see most were interested in refining it. So that tells us a lot. It's time to refresh the overall mission of the organization. Vision, here you can see pretty clearly, preserve hometown coastal charm was the top ranking item, and you can see in rank order how they fell out from, again, these are the interviews from the elected officials and the senior staff. Values, again, standards which define how the organization thinks, talks, and behaves. Honesty and transparency, very, very high. Very healthy answer for an organization to state that. I mean, we see this, we do this a lot. You don't always see organizations come right out and say honesty and transparency. That's really an important finding that we saw in this information. The goals, they were spread out amongst a number of them, but smart, sustainable growth seemed to rise to the top of what's most important, the broad, long-term purposes of the city. Smart, sustainable growth came out at the top. We did do a SWOT analysis where we asked everybody what they thought were the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the city. The strengths, and you can see them here, high quality, knowledgeable employees, and I don't have to go through those, but you can see how they rank here. A lot of strengths in this city identified here. Sometimes you have to do some self-analysis of what the weaknesses are of the city, and there was a strong feeling that there needed to be more professional development and a leadership succession plan. But you can see also focus on improving internal operations and project management. You can see the other responses there. Opportunities, be able to use social media to get the city's message out, expand parks, and you can see all of them sort of rose to a relatively similar level. Threats, this happens all over the state. Home rule preemption by the state tends to be one of the top threats. Concerns about the economy and potential downturn, how whether the city is susceptible to economy, and you can see all of these identified as potential threats to the city. And then we did do a series of questions about priorities for capital projects, policies and programs, and organizational capacity. You can see in terms of capital projects, stormwater, swell maintenance is probably no surprise to you, came out on top. The whole working waterfront idea and road maintenance and paving seem to be, those three seem to rise to the top. Public policy or programs, again, there's that external communications, educating the public, but affordable housing, recreational programs, and you can see you must be doing a really good job in public safety, because while it's always important, it's one of the most important things you do, probably the most important thing you do, it didn't rise to the top. It's probably because you're doing a really good job of it. Organizational capacity, these are the things that would help the organization operate more efficiently. You can see there's the succession planning, some training, technology upgrades, and you can see these other items. And all of this will feed when we get to developing the specific objectives of the plan and the detailed strategies, all of this information is going to be used to do that. Your staff working with us, we will develop those. And then we kind of put everything together and ask the question of what are your top three across all of the capital projects, programs, or internal capacity. And you can see that their workforce training, increase in staff, the stormwater technology, and you can see those priorities there. We asked what you wanted to get out of the workshop and how the workshop would work. And again, the respondents really want engagement with residents, staff, and council, really an open, transparent process, and develop clear and concise strategic plan, and that will come down the road. We also conducted an electronic survey of employees. I think we had 100 responses, and we asked basically the same questions, 32 questions. We measured order of importance as well as level of agreement, and I'm going to show you those findings here. We asked this question about mission. We had 4, basically taking what we learned from the interviews of what the priorities were. Now we tested those with your entire employee base. And what we found was that the highest ranking component of mission was quality public services, which actually aligns with the individual interviews as well. And you can see the second one is enhance quality of life for residents. The third one is foster economic opportunity and maintaining the small town feel as the city grows. All of these are important, but the one that came out the most important was for mission was quality public services. And so what I'd like to do is sort of stop there and sort of allow you to have some dialogue. If you think that that's right and that's on point, that's great. If you have other thoughts about those rankings, because what this information will do, this will drive, we're going to go to the public and have the same information shared with them, but we need to understand your thoughts on these priorities, because these will ultimately drive the actual language that's drafted for the mission statement.
Now I'll turn that on.
Okay. I had to turn mine on too. So.
Okay. You know, I agree 100%. I mean, the staff, we know we have a good staff, but they seem to be on point in their answers to the questions. I think these are the 5 things that you've got laid out in here or 4 things for 5 actually for a mission statement are right on point to what we should be doing, I think, from our mission. You know, I'm not sure how you do it, but the concept of workforce enhancement, workforce training, workforce succession planning, you know, that some way or another in the mission statement, we might want to include something that points towards our desire to do that. I think it's important that we, you know, succession planning is ultimately important in an organization from most middle management levels up. You need to know who you're going to put in that job if that person disappears for some reason. And it's very important to do that. And you have to provide the training that the people on the succession plan need to be able to move into that. Now, it may be on the job training, maybe sending them to conferences, sending them to schools, whatever needs to be done. And we, in turn, need to budget for that.
Sure.
Because it all costs money.
Mayor, there's no question, based on the information we've seen, succession planning is going to be part of your strategic plan.
Yeah.
Whether it rises to the level of your mission, which is why you exist, you're answering the question why you exist, it may not, because we want to make sure we don't try to put too much information into the mission, but it's clear to us that succession planning is absolutely going to be a component, one of the strategies in the implementations plans in this plan will focus on succession planning, no question.
Yeah, okay. Brett, do you have anything?
I'm actually looking and I'm thinking about the quality of life when we talk about to enhance the quality of life of our residents. When we're talking about that, what are we referring to? The services that we provide, things of that nature?
It sometimes can be defined in the eyes of the beholder. It ranked second here in terms of a component to be in your mission statement. So as Dr. Saviak pointed out, if it's in your mission statement, it's part of the vision, values, goals. We will develop a goal and objectives that will be able to measure how you're doing on that notion of quality of life. So if you said to us, today, the mayor just said, these 4 ideas are good. I don't disagree with them. They're in rank order based on the survey. But if you felt quality of life was more important than quality public services, that's important for us to hear, because that will set the tone for how the mission statement is written. Right. How it gets measured is part of the strategic plan. We'll have to develop measures for that as we go along.
Right, and I think what I'm getting to with that is the quality of life for our residents, to me, would mean maintaining our fishing village style small town feel, continuing to do the things that we're doing in the stormwater system. Those are quality of life issues for the residents, is what I'm thinking. And we have those further up front there, and that's what I'm talking about as far as quality of life. Is that the line that we're going down when we're talking about that quality of life?
It is. Oftentimes we see quality of life and some of the things you mentioned move into sort of the vision statement, where we're talking about the character of the community you're trying to create. And that, when we get to, you'll see some of that in the vision findings as well. But if you felt like the mission should include the language of quality of life, it came out second. It's appropriate to include that. We would use this as unless you tell us otherwise, we would use this as a guide with your staff to develop the actual mission statement using these terms on a priority basis.
Richard, if I may, am I correct in saying we can join multiple elements out of these 4 items to create our mission statement? So I don't think we have to necessarily choose just one.
Right, yeah, no,
join
I don't want to just choose one. I'm just thinking about where we're going when we're talking about that, and the grand scheme of things is what I'm talking about. But as far as what we have here, I'm definitely on board, and I think I've covered some of that in our one-on-one meetings, so I'm definitely on board with where we're going right now, so I'm looking forward to continuing this process.
Yeah, I see quality of life expanding into other areas too. It's like does the city provide avenues by which the citizens can go to a place like Riverview Park and have celebrations, and do we do things like that? There's a lot of cities that do a lot more of that than we do, and it builds a level of quality of life for the citizens because they have those avenues they can go to. So,
Right, we're talking about basically like the enhancement of the parks and things like that.
yeah.
Exactly, okay.
All of those specific projects actually come as part of the overall strategic plan. So what you're doing is what you're doing right now is you're linking your mission to actual deliverables on your mission, which is exactly what you should be doing. And we're going to help you collectively pull that together in an overall strategy and a plan to do that. So you're spot on.
I was going to say, I agree. The quality of life obviously is good public services, good parks, good roads, things that make people safe roads, things that make people feel that their community is a safe place to live, improves their quality of life. I still say I want to understand what foster economic opportunity within our community, what that entails. I'm having a hard time finding a vision on that one, so I would love to hear ideas down the road on that, what that means. Obviously, every cent we collect is taxpayer money, so how we provide economic opportunity using that is interesting. But no, I think we're right on the right. I agree totally. The mission statement's not super far off. It needs updating, but it needs to cover these items.
The economic opportunity can transcend itself into reassessing how you deal with the business environment, how you deal with chambers of commerce, how you do the things that build. We're not going to be a major employment center in Sebastian. I put that in your paper and get people to be mad at me about saying that, but we're not going to be a major employment center in Sebastian. We're going to be a small business center, and if we can do things to bring in more small businesses, then we are enhancing that.
And Mayor, I think you're going to see when we get to vision that what you just described is what the city, where the direction is going. I think you're going to see data that's going to reflect exactly what you just said, and you have to then align what is your economic plan within the context of what your vision is. You're not trying to be a larger city, a large economic center of major employment. You are what you want to be defined in your vision, and then your economic strategy has to complement that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think we need to obviously do more things to keep the small businesses that we do have here, and that'll attract more small businesses because that's what
That-
we're all about here, so.
That may very well be your strategy.
Yeah.
That, again, spot on. What you're doing is you're discussing the biggest statement you can make is your mission, but you're already thinking about how to execute on that, and that's what we want.
Very good.
We've got some online there.
Yeah, so let's just remember to get Vice Mayor Dixon and Councilmember McPartlin if they have any
Okay,
input.
Vice Mayor Dixon, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, everything I'm hearing is very good and spot on.
Bob, Councilmember McPartlin?
I would say it's a lot of wordsmithing to come. I see a lot of the pieces are already there, so it'll just be doing a lot of work, wordsmithing. And then I already seen, in the weaknesses that were listed, the city has already worked on several of those.
Yeah, there's a lot of projects that are currently underway that kind of, that are already supported by where we would be with a strategic plan, but not all.
Right.
Right, like our social media presence, we've done a great job here recently with that, and that's a big plus for our community to hear firsthand and see things as they're happening, so.
That's not unusual to both of your comments. It's, the strategic plan isn't brand new, giving birth to the first success of the city. It's often very much building on and optimizing the successes that are already underway, and maybe adding a few, Yeah. So is the consensus that the council, and we've heard from all five now, would like to see a mission statement that incorporates all four of these concepts?
Yes.
Or is it, I want to see three of the concepts, or just so we have some specific direction?
I like all
I
four of
like
them.
all
Yes.
four.
Okay.
Maybe a challenge to get it all in there and have it concise, but we're going to
And
give
then,
it a
and
shot.
then in 2 sentences.
Yeah.
Is that,
All four concepts.
Councilmember McPartlin, do you agree with all four of these being included?
I don't know if all four, but and I think the piece that ties it all together is the quality public services. And that's not mentioned in the four there, so.
And if I might add, as we were talking with the small businesses, which is one thing I really appreciate about Sebastian and one thing our family likes to support, that kind of gives that small town USA feel that Sebastian has. And if, we want to use that kind of language instead of the whole foster economic opportunity, but use, small town, small business, et cetera, some way to weave those two together. Doesn't have to be the exact language all four have, but I'm sure you guys are very creative and you're great at your job based on what I see here. Something along those lines would be wonderful.
Mayor, I think we have direction, and we will, working with your city manager and staff, we'll come back. We're going to go to the public first with all of this, but we will come back with some language that hopefully reflects our discussion tonight.
So the public will see all four concepts then and provide some feedback.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the vision. What we asked, this is everybody now, the electronic survey. We tested these four concepts as part of the vision. Some of them may overlap a bit, but here's the results. The preserve hometown vibe. We got the word vibe in there, and coastal charm ranked first. Vibrant and desirable place to live, smart, sustainable growth, and beautiful waterfront. That's the rank order. You might find again that all of these are worthy enough to be in your vision. And so we'll open it up, Mayor, to discussion on what your thoughts are on these ideas or any new ones that you may have.
Once again, it's kind of spot on to what my feeling is. We want to maintain the whole time vibe. We want to maintain the coastal charm. It's going to be very difficult to do that, but I think we can do it if we work at it.
You might do that through smart, sustainable growth.
Well, yes, and we're going to end up doing that through lots of measurable things that we do through our
Correct.
growth management departments and our building departments and things like that. And once again, the desirable place to live, I think that's a catch-all. It's part and parcel to a lot of things we do to make it a desirable place to live. The waterfront, a beautiful waterfront. Some of our problems on our waterfront have nothing to do with what the city wants to do. It has to do with what the state regulations are and what we can do on the waterfront. And so I think we can strive to do more down there, but we have to do that within those regulations. I mean, right now we have houses that should never have been built. We have, things like that. One of our primary restaurants building is up for sale. We don't know if the restaurant, I don't know if the restaurant's going to be there or not after the building sells, what's going to be done with it. So, but I think it's important that we do that. So we need to have some type of vision to do that. And that sustainable smart growth is important. Sustainable is important to smart growth. You don't build smartly if you don't sustain it. If it doesn't sustain your community, it has to be mixed use, it has to be all that kind of stuff. So I'm on target with this.
Yeah, is it possible, because 9 and 6 are pretty much saying the same thing, that we can just combine 9 and 6?
So that would be promote the beautiful waterfront and preserve hometown vibe and coastal charm.
That's right.
I think we could roll it right in.
Yeah.
As I said at the beginning, I think all of these sort of overlap a bit. And so we absolutely can do that if that's the consensus of the council.
I'm good with that.
In one case, we're talking about preserving that. That's things like, when we get into the nasty parts of the jungle here, that's things like land development code, measure, things that we measure there. That's things like building permits. That's that kind of stuff. The other part says promote. That's selling. That's how do we bring people into the
Isn't that the job?
waterfront.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Isn't that more of the job of the chamber, not so much our job?
Well, I think it's a goal that we should have with the chamber,
Right,
not separate from the chamber. Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So, Mayor, to Vice Mayor's point, setting the direction is one thing, what you're doing, helping us do tonight. How you execute, it doesn't always have to be city staff that are doing these. You've got a network of resources in the community, not-for-profits, chambers, all sorts of, what we'll do in the plan is if promoting is a component of this plan, we'll work with your staff to, write exactly how they're going to do that and who they're going to do it with, who are your partners, who are you going to collaborate with. It's all part of the strategy.
Yeah, I think it's important to leave promote in there because I think it's important for the city itself to have plans in place in which they are promoting that waterfront and not expect private enterprise, small businesses, the chamber to do that for the city. I think the city should be in a position to do that. But that also might lend itself right into the plans on what you do with that waterfront. How do you grow it? How much money you put into it? What you do to it? And that's all part of the promotion process.
In keeping with your vision.
Yes, keeping with the vision.
Right.
Yes, keeping with the vision. It all has to
Start from the top.
It all has to go down from the top down.
That's
It gets
right.
that little pyramid going here.
Yes.
I find a double-edged sword with that, promoting the waterfront from the city's perspective. And yes, we want to promote small business, but then we have businesses in other parts of the city that are going, why aren't we getting promoted? Why is only the waterfront community getting promoted? So I think we have to be careful. I like the chamber being the promoter of the local, and they're government funded. They do get state funding. So being the promoter of local businesses, being the promoter of the waterfront businesses, but it's not just the waterfront. They're promoting all businesses within the city of Sebastian and the Sebastian River area. I just think if the city starts promoting, then we've got to promote all, not just waterfront. So I think we have to be careful where we put ourselves on that one, that we aren't showing favoritism because it is in our CRA district.
Well, would you change that to promoting the city as opposed to the waterfront?
Promote local business probably would be, well, it depends what the goal of that question is, because if we're promoting our waterfront as it is and the activities at the waterfront, that's one thing. If we're promoting the businesses at the waterfront, that's a separate discussion. Then I would lean more towards, yes, supporting local business. So I'm not against promoting local business. I would just be careful of only doing it in one location. Just my thought from a vision perspective, I would like to see us promote local business on the whole. Just my thoughts.
Councilmember Parlin, you got anything that you want to add?
I'm crafting my own language.
Great.
Are you ready?
Earplugs on, I can't hear this.
Sure.
He said he's crafting his own language.
I know.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
you got it. Okay.
I heard him, yeah. I don't know sometimes whether he's joking or whether he's telling me the truth.
Well, I am. I wrote it down if you want to hear it.
You guys have what you need on the vision?
Unless Councilmember McPartlin wants to share any.
And is it the consensus?
Well, can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. Because I'm kind of melding a couple, and I think the city of Sebastian will preserve our hometown vibe and coastal charm through quality public services, a vibrant citizenry, and ensure smart, sustainable growth. And I was contemplating adding in there fostering vibrant citizenry and fostering local business.
Okay, is that your input for the vision statement?
Yes.
Kind of combines mission and
Little-
vision.
Little
yeah.
of both.
Right, so the consensus on key concepts to staff for the vision statement would be all four of these?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think.
We didn't say we're going to make it easy on you.
Did anyone catch if Councilmember
I just asked.
McPartlin said something that was missing out of the four?
It sounded like there was some additional
Yeah.
information.
Hey, Councilmember McPartlin, if you get a chance, can you just send me what you had put together there? Just so we have it for our notes.
Sure.
Thank you.
I think we understand the sensitivity to the word promotion and specifically one geographic area, but you've also mentioned coastal charm, which includes the waterfront. And so there may be a way to sort of not focus on the waterfront, but sort of capture the importance of your coastal setting. And we will try and wordsmith something that reflects a little bit of a consensus here. And I think if we get Councilmember McPartlin's language, we can use that as well as a guide for us.
Okay.
We good to move on, Mayor?
We're okay.
Okay. So the values, which are, of course, the standards which define how we think as an organization, talk, and behave. We have these 5 concepts tested from the individual interviews and tested them with the overall electronic survey. And you can see the findings here: professionalism, public transparency, protecting natural resources, preserving coastal charm, and innovative initiatives. Now, there was a difference between the interviews where transparency and honesty was one of those concepts that came out of the individual interviews with the council and the senior staff. When tested overall with all the employees, these are the ones that came to the top. So in your discussion now about the values of the organization and what you want to actually make proactive statements about values, you may want to consider the transparency and honesty component as well.
Well, so
There's
I read
public-
that
I'm
as our
sorry, there's public
employees,
transparency,
yeah.
number 2.
I
It was
read that as
worded
our-
a little differently. It's
Okay.
transparency and honesty, but it is number 2. I apologize.
okay, number,
The second ranked number there.
yeah. Transparency is there,
Yes,
but not the word honesty.
right. And
I
so,
mean, do I read that as saying that our staff thinks that the city's staff is honest? Or do I read that as saying that they don't think that the honesty belongs in there?
I wouldn't read much into that at all.
No,
It may
yeah.
have been the way the question was
Okay,
asked.
okay.
But I think honesty and transparency, they're not synonyms, but they're pretty close to expressing the same kind of value.
So I'll just add, because in the direct question that was sent out in the survey, we ask our employees to rate their level of agreement and rank in order of importance.
Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily provide clarification on how they feel. It's just whether they agree with and rank their order of importance.
Well, I've never had a citizen tell me they don't think our staff has been honest with them. So, that appears to me like that, we don't have an overall issue with the citizens thinking our staff is dishonest. I've had a lot of people tell me they don't like the answers, but not that they didn't get an honest answer, so, okay.
Yeah, the values aren't necessarily solely aspirational, to your point. They could just be the reality. In other words, this is who we are today, and this is what we'd like to
Who we want to
remain
be, yeah.
and continue to be.
Okay, so professionalism, public transparency, professionalism, protecting natural resources, preserving our coastal charm, and innovative initiatives are the 5 top things that came out of that. Okay. I don't see any issue with any of those. Do you guys? Does anyone?
I don't either. I do have a question. Was fiscal responsibility a question asked in that?
And Joe's going to check that, but again, we use the interview process, and whether that was identified in the interview processes as one of the values. And I'm guessing probably not. It probably didn't come up. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And this is exactly why we're here tonight, because if something like that impresses you that should be expressed as the organizational value, as an organizational value, now is the time to tell us.
Personally,
I apologize at the risk of being redundant. The major recurring themes from the interviews were then served as the basis of the electronic survey question.
Makes sense. Makes
So
sense.
whichever, came to the top during the interviews, that then translated into specific questions in which we're going, okay, so what's your level of agreement with that, and how would you rank that in order of importance?
Yeah.
I would say, along with these values, I think there definitely should be a value of fiscal responsibility to our citizens or something along those lines. Just my opinion.
How does everybody feel about that?
The physical responsibility.
piece.
Yeah, I mean, physical responsibility can sometimes be at odds with these other things. Innovative initiatives. It's kind of hard to be physically responsible and do a lot of innovative initiatives.
Right.
But I do agree that the council, if we're talking about cities' values, the council has a value of physical responsibility. Our CFO has a value of physical responsibility. Now, if we have to transcend that into that level by including it here, then I'm okay with that. But I think our staff and the overall city, they need to work. They need, when it gets down to the bottom line and you start talking about putting measurable things there, we shouldn't hold them accountable for whether something is cost effective or not. We should hold them accountable for how they do their job. It's up to the city manager and the council to determine whether it's physically responsible or physically possible to do that. If we make them think about those physical things, about the financial things in their work level, then they're going to quit buying the shovel they need, or they're going to quit doing the stuff they need to do because they think they're being measured on how they're physically responsible they are. That's a two-edged sword that you can get caught in.
So All good points. So what would y'all like to do with fiscal responsibility as a value?
Well, I think we do that already, and I think if we put that in there, we may inhibit the innovative initiatives. So
Okay.
that's just my view.
Okay. Vice Mayor Dixon?
I agree with Mr. Jones.
Okay. So consensus is the 5 values articulated here?
Yeah.
Councilmember McPartlin.
Oh, McPartlin, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Bob McPartlin?
Yeah, I'm always left out. That's all right. I agree with all of them. I just wish they could all start with P's, so it's easy to remember, the 5 P's. So if you could come up with innovative initiatives, if that could be, starting with a P or something, I think, because you know what, you make these these values, who pays attention? I like to pay attention. So it would make it easier to kind of recall. And then I'm also in agreement, like if we had to put honesty, if we had to put fiscal responsibility, does that mean we have not been up until then? Those should be like, just core. It's not a value, it's just in the core of doing it. So I agree with the 5. I just wish the last one could be a P.
You could go with progressive, but that's kind of a negative word these days.
Yes.
I want to
Which is very
say,
good.
we've said clearly throughout this process that there are many things in this that we're already doing.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean it shouldn't be part of our mantra, that it shouldn't be part of our presentation, because we're not developing what we think we need to do because we're not doing it. We're developing something we can say to the public, here is our values for our city and how we run it. And I'm going to slightly disagree with the mayor on one point. I'm sorry, our directors and our managers and our supervisors and our employees all need to be fiscally responsible, because they don't need to go buy a new shovel just because they want one. They need to buy one because they need one. There's a lot of money spent below council that they never see it except in the full budget. It doesn't come to us. There's a lot of money spent before it ever gets to us. So everybody in an organization needs to be fiscally responsible. And once again, that doesn't mean we're not doing it. We're setting our values for who we're going to be as a city. And that's why I thought that was important. Just my thought.
Yeah, and I think if you just put a P on number 15, innovative initiatives, that may help.
It could be like a silent P, like pterodactyl.
Yeah, that's silent
right?
P, man. There you go.
Prudent, or we'll work with that. And some of these,
So you want all 5 of those values?
Yes.
And then I also think fiscal responsibility and honesty are a part of professionalism. So they all fall under there.
That's an excellent point too. Is some of these are umbrella values that take in other specific values.
great, that's great input for us. Thank you. We'll move on to the goals. So we tested 5 goals for level of agreement and rank order of importance in the electronic survey. And here is in rank order: smart, sustainable growth, high level of public safety for the community, preserve hometown feel and coastal charm, encourage economic development, and improve organizational efficiencies, in that order. And these, again, the goals are, when we're now getting to actionable items, when you establish a goal, we're going to have to develop objectives to implement those goals and specific strategies and tactics, which ultimately will result in an operational plan for the city. And so, but starting here, these were the 5 top goals identified coming out of the overall survey information.
I don't know how we could create actionable items around number 18, preserve a hometown feel and coastal charm. I mean, that's it. How do we, I mean, the Planning and Zoning Commission, for the last 20 years that I've been involved in the city, when I was on that as well, has been trying to figure out how to define what the fishing village theme is and what this whole thing is. So if you're going to if you're going to take something, a goal like preserve our hometown feel and coastal charm, we have to then be able to have to define what coastal charm is and what the hometown feel is. And I'm not 100% sure that we can qualify that enough to be able to put measures on it. Is coastal charm, every building that's built down there has a tiki hut on it? I mean, I really don't know what that truly is. And how do you put a measurable goal, a measurable activity on that goal?
Well, as somebody who spent a lifetime in comprehensive planning and zoning, I had a full head of hair when I started. You know, your plan can define what that is.
Okay.
And then from that come actionable items. It may be that you choose to not spend certain capital projects that would perhaps open up the city to character development that's characterized, that's not hometown feel and coastal charm. When I hear that, I think of relatively low scale development, walkable community. All these things you can develop specific strategies, development codes,
Policy tools.
There's a whole array of tools that you can do if that's one of the goals of the city.
I'm just looking at the woman that has to do that. She's got her head in her hand right now, like about to slide down off the chair. So, but with that comment, then for us to say we have a goal of doing that, and then to have our professional staff try to come up with the measurements, that's fine. But at some point in time, we may have to say, oh gosh, we just really can't make that happen.
Right, or they'll bring those ideas back to you, and you can decide whether they're workable or not.
All right.
I mean,
We've tried. We had charrettes done. We've tried to get some definition of what that coastal charm means, and we've just basically, I think, failed every time we try to do that because it's not enforceable. How do you enforce it, and so forth.
I think the CRA district helps with that some in what the CRA does. I think that helps with that some. It could definitely be a part of whatever we come up with that, I believe.
So I'll just add a couple things. So I think it's a little bit broader when we look at the goals, the objectives that will align underneath our goal if it maintains, preserve our hometown feel and coastal charm. I look at it from a little bit broader perspective because it also would include parks and recreation elements, right? Part of our hometown feel is our 23 parks that we have, the special events that take place on the riverfront, the opportunities for our small businesses to come into the community. So I think that plays a part, and it can be a little bit broader than just being planning and zoning, code requirements, and things like that. So that's just an element. Even
Could be
public
your
safety.
relationship with the school board and how schools are developed and designed and placed in your community. So there's, to the city manager's point, there's a number. I tended to focus on the planning stuff, but there are dozens of ways in which to execute on that idea. But Mayor, you're correct. You do have to put some language and a little more meat on the bone when you're describing that.
Well, okay, given all that, I'm comfortable with these 5. Brad?
I am.
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember McPartlin, are you okay with these 5 items?
Yeah, I'm good. And I think we could find, measurable items for all of them.
Okay. Vice Mayor Dixon?
She said yes.
Absolutely.
I didn't hear her say
I'm
yes.
over here on the West Coast right now, and I've seen plenty of coastal charm where
Where's
I
she
am.
coming from?
It's definitely actionable.
Okay, good.
Okay, we've gotten through the meat of tonight, and so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Saviak, and he's going to talk about where we're going from here.
Since we've already talked about what we've done, we'll move forward here. The city council workshop we're engaging in today to review the research and discuss your ideas and direction for mission, vision, values, and goals. Then we move to community meetings where we'll have the opportunity to hear directly from citizens about their views on and their ideas and on mission, vision, values, and goals. Then it'll come back to you so that you'll have the benefit of that public feedback for you to adopt those. Once those are adopted by you, the elected policymakers, the administrative leadership then goes to work under the direction of the city manager, developing specific objectives from those goals, right? The goals are broad, long-term purposes. The objectives are SMART, specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, time-bound. As well as summary action or implementation plans for each objective. In other words, if somebody was to ask, well, how are you going to do that? How's that going to happen? Hey, you can read this one page and you can have a solid sense and good understanding of how that's going to be done. Don't get me wrong, more detailed and implementation plans may flow from that, accompany that objective, because that objective requires something more than, a summary action or implementation plan. Then the strategic plan will be due to the city manager and reviewed, and then it'll come to the council for your review, revisions, approval, and then we move to the implementation. In other words, translating objectives into actual outcomes, generating positive results for citizens in terms of performance, efficiency, innovation, cost savings, quality of life, everything that you value. So we'll be in late August having a day of community meetings scheduled at 2 different times to provide the residents with the more than one opportunity to come and express their views on mission, vision, values, and goals. Then we will come back to you with those results. So you'll have not only what you discussed for mission, vision, values, and goals, and the benefit of all the research that we covered tonight and that you've already read through and reviewed. You'll also have the public input and the citizen feedback and ideas on that before you finalize. And then once that gets finalized, once again, then that goes to the city manager, and the city manager begins going, okay, from those goals, can we develop specific objectives? Could be capital projects, could be policies, programs, services. They could be institutional capacity, organizational ability to effectively execute, and with summary plans, and then all of that together, compiled together, produced together, becomes your strategic plan guiding the city to success for the long term on everything that is important to you, that matters to you.
Good.
We're especially grateful. This has been a wonderful process so far. The level of participation, the ideas, the input, the enthusiasm, very strong commitment to the value and benefits of strategic planning, and we very much look forward to continue step by step with you through this process to get you exactly what you want, so the citizens you serve realize the most positive results on all of these priorities and to them.
All right. Is that it? You done?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just one last advertisement to the public. In August, when they have these sessions, please come to the sessions, because it's important for you to understand that this is not a book that's going to go on a shelf and be forgotten. Our 25-26 budget is going to be based on all the things that come out of their strategic plan. The projects that the city works on, all of that stuff is going to come out of the strategic plan. And for a lot of people who think we do it once and it's over, they're wrong. This process goes on and on and on. Now, nothing against these two gentlemen. I'm hoping that the next time we update this, we can do it internally as opposed to having to hire them to do it. But if we feel like we need to hire them to come in and help us do that, that's fine. But this is going to be something that's going to be reviewed and possibly updated as part of our overall budget process every year. I mean, we'll have to review the strategic plan, determine whether the goals are still valid, whether the objectives are still valid, the measurements are still valid. Businesses that run on this are successful. Cities and counties that run on a solid strategic plan will be successful. I think everybody out there has probably seen in the last 6 months the efforts of our staff, the goals of that. You've seen a lot of streets being paved, a lot of swales being fixed, a lot of stuff being taken care of, and it's the result of our staff actually planning this stuff. And hopefully, as we get through this process, that'll be one more aid to them in moving through that. So please, if you're a member of the public, Don't wait until June of next year and come in and complain about the strategic plan. Get involved in it in August and come to those meetings and put your input in. It's important that it be done that way. Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break before we start the council meeting. So we're going to start our council meeting at 6:05. Thank you.